Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. This is our RPG map and image creation, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining me here today. I appreciate it. It's been a little while, but we're back on it this weekend, which is feeling really good. So this is where we go over all of our art-related news as well as new releases. We do demonstrations on how to use the built-in map and image creation system right inside of Fantasy Grounds, as well as if you have any sort of questions, I'm more than happy to demonstrate or to help you figure out any of those problems that you might run into. So again, thanks everyone for joining me today, and we're gonna jump right into this. I hope you guys are enjoying all the new dice packs that we've released. That was a really fun project that we worked on a while back. And there'll be more dice packs on the way. There were some things that we've been working on behind the scenes. Also, this month's art subscription releases are going to be. Oh, thanks so much. I've actually created a whole bunch of pre-created kind of maps that you can just grab and throw in lots of different kind of situations. So a little bit of a different from our regular art packs. Our regular art packs are usually for constructing your own, but this will be good for either a base or for those moments where you really just need something to throw down there. And so why don't we have a look at some of those right now? We can kind of go over it. And what I've done is I've created a whole bunch of different oh, can everyone hear me? Is there no sound? Oh, okay, great. Just checking. So what we'll actually do here, let's have a look at some stuff. Okay, awesome. Well, what I've actually done here is I've created a whole bunch of different maps, and they all fit together. So you can use them independently for whatever you want to use, or you can kind of make a giant conglomerate. I'm going to do a few of these, and they'll all work cohesively together here. Let's just have a look here. And basically, the way it's going to work here, we'll just create an image record. And you can see here we have already created, and this is going to have all of the line of sight and everything all built right into it. So you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just kind of grab it and go. But what these do is these just fit seamlessly together here, kind of see. So if you're going to be moving from one area to the next or doing whatever you want to do, you'll be able to do that in a really kind of cool and cohesive way. Now, some of these maps I've left a bit of open areas here, so you can add in all of your own elements or anything else that you might desire, as well as these are all constructed with a lot of the pre-made elements that we already have in some of our art packs. So you can seamlessly add to these if you want to as well. So this should be a cool new kind of addition to these kind of elements here. As you can see, we can just kind of stack these right next to each other, and it's all just like a nice seamless kind of creation here. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that will be coming out. Well, in addition to that, we will be having more traditional kind of art packs as well. But this, as I said, this will just be a nice, quick, and easy way for you to kind of do that. These are some pre-created maps that I've done for some of the art packs that will be coming out. So what they'll be doing, what I'm doing is I'm releasing them in 3x3 sections. So each one of these is a 25 by 25 grid. So let's just turn on our grid here. And they all fit seamlessly together. So you can just grab a map and throw it out here and use it. And all of the line of sight and everything is included in them as well. So those moments where you just need to grab something and throw it out there, or whatever you'd like to do with them, they're going to be there. In addition to that, I've actually going to do some additional kind of elements to this. So as I said, it's going to be a 3x3 map area here. So if we grab these, for example, these all just fit seamlessly together here. What we can actually do is you can use each one of these individually, any way that you want to, or you can kind of stack them together and make these huge mega maps, which should work exceptionally well for you. It's all just something that you can kind of just grab and use on its own if you're going to do like a random encounter or something, or if you want to kind of continue this. And these are all made, a lot of this stuff, you'll notice some of these. I went in and I did quite a lot of like little details in them. So you can build on top of these as well. So add in any kind of elements that you want to. Yeah, exactly. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to add on, I'm going to be building several different series of these, and they'll all connect together. So you can have like this huge, and I'm even going to do some of the underground areas as well, so you could stack them and create an entire kind of system here. The cool thing about doing these is that they will transition seamlessly, as I said, into the creation process, or if you want to create anything of your own. So let me just lower down the opacity of this here a little bit. And so, for example, we wanted to come in here and all of these rocks and whatnot are all part of other packs. There is some color adjustment done to some of them, but that can easily be done inside of the system itself. So let's have a look. Forget exactly which trees come from where. I think that these ones are actually from the abandoned places. So let's just go into that. And if we go into our decorations and go into nature, I think that if yeah, so here, for example, similar tree. And so you could just grab these and paint them in or do whatever you wish to kind of add in additional kind of elements to these and make them your own. So what I've actually done is left some of these areas kind of open out here so that you can have a little bit more creative direction in whatever you're trying to create here. So this should be a good kind of addition to everything. Oh, thanks so much. Glad to be here after a break. It's been it's really good to be back. So I'm very appreciative that everyone's happy about that. So here we have, in addition to this, kind of just continue to build this whole area out here. And you can see what I've tried to do is create something that is a little bit interesting in each one of these little areas, but nothing that's too over the top, nothing that's too kind of cute in its narration. So it's very open. Kind of just build it from there. Yeah, so this should be fun. Yes, exactly. So one of the things that I'm unable to do at this particular time is to kind of have all of those effects layered into that as well. But yeah, it's very, very easy to do, right? So if we were going to do that, we could just create an effects layer and we could put in our water. And then we're going to add a mask immediately. And then we can just hold down Control, and we could just do like a very quick demonstration of how you can throw this stuff in here. We don't have to be exact about this. And then we can come in and we can blur out those edges a little bit so it's a little better. And we can just remove box here. We don't have to do all of them either. That'll kind of give us that feeling that some of them are underwater. And we can maybe get rid of the yeah, so very, very cool. And one of the other things that we can also do, and this is one of the other great system features that we have inside of Fantasy Grounds, is that once you have a pretty reasonable masking for whatever particular type of effects layer that you've created there, you can duplicate that layer, right? So all we have to do is duplicate it. And it's going to say that it's water, but it's also going to duplicate all of the mask that's associated with that. If I were to continue on and do all the different water and spend some time there, I can create another effects layer here, and we can do whatever we want to. We can change this particular effects layer as well. So if we wanted to do this, let's lower down that speed a bit. We could also do our amounts, something like this. Let's actually have it going the other direction, and we can lower that. So you can, I'll increase this to like 8. And you can see we can create this kind of cascading motion too that's going to add to that feeling of the movement of the water. Right? So as we layer these particular types of effects on top of each other, you can get some really, really cool kind of systems going. And of course, you want to adjust the amount there to make whatever seems appropriate. But that's going to give us that movement. So the way that the speed in this particular effects layer works is that 50 is actually completely still, right? And so above 50, and the greater it is above 50, the faster it's going to be moving in one direction, and the greater below 50, the faster it's going to be moving in the other direction. So 25, for example, and 75 are the same speed, they're just the opposite directions. Let's see here. We had a question from Drake. Has there been any discussion on new effects in the? Yes, we actually have had talks about it. So that is definitely something that could very well, or you could very likely see. Yeah, I would love to see a whole plethora of things. So in the same kind of vein, right? Whatever we do here, whatever we kind of create, we could do the same thing with clouds. Again, you're going to get a mix. And one of the great things I like about clouds over the mist is that we have the both the dark and the light kind of movement here. But you can see how this just adds. And what I'll actually do is put this underneath because these do stack. So this will actually affect what is under it. So we can actually create a more of a water effect over the top of the cloud situation. You're going to get this kind of like rolling feeling throughout. And again, we can continue stacking these on top of each other. So if we add another one, again, as we duplicate this, well, let's delete that. Let's duplicate it. As we duplicate it, what it'll actually do is continue to duplicate this mask that we've. You can spend some time doing it. And what we can do is add in, let's do something else. We could do, I guess we could do something that has a little bit more. One of the things that I like to do in these kind of scenarios, I'll use snow sometimes, and we can turn the speed all the way down. And we can turn up its intensity. You can see we can get this as well, this kind of, I'll do this a lot of times in stagnant water to create this kind of like strange elements that are kind of floating back and forth here. We can change the size of these and also adjust all of these different parameters, kind of get another kind of feel there. In addition to that, we could also change the color, for example. So if we wanted to adjust the colors, and let's say we wanted to make it a little bit more blue, certainly could. And this is going to copy over all, like I said, all of the different kind of parameters here. You can see and can blur out those edges or not. You could even remove the matte. Yes, very cold. That time of year, isn't it? A river of slush. Yeah. You can do a lot of stuff with the lighting system um, if you're unfamiliar with it. Yeah, we just hunker down for the winter. So you could, depending on what you're actually asking about creating light in the game, so it illuminates tokens briefly, you certainly can do it. You can do lots of interesting interactions with the lighting system. And also, you should be noted that everything that you do gets updated to your players in real time. So you can do by using the controls on the right hand side, you can actually kind of do a lot of really cool stuff. So do you guys have any questions? Is there anything that you guys have been working on that you need some help with? We could make a map today, whatever you guys would like to kind of accomplish. I have no idea where we kind of left off. Let's actually have a little look at the images that we've created. I think that one of the last things that we on. I honestly have no idea what the last thing. I think that this was one of the ones that we were working on earlier. Alien world that we had created using a lot of the underwater map pack to create these kind of like alien looking plants. Oh yes, we made a asteroid mining base. Old one. So what would you guys like to do today? Should we create something? And as I said, do you guys have any questions? Is there anything? Look through the artist's folder. Yeah, we have, and all of these ones that are not in these packages should be up on the forge. So I have to check into that and make sure that that gets done. But yeah, we've created a whole bunch of different stuff here, and like I had just mentioned, everything that we create here, it does get put up on the forge, so you can download it for free. It does require that you do have the art packages that we use here. So if you have the art subscription or if you purchase them, then you'll be able to download them and use them for free. You can also, one of the great things about doing it that way is that you have access to all of the different layers and folders. You can make any sort of adjustments that you want to, or there's a bunch of Western stuff, Drake. There is a couple of different desert packs as well as complete Western packs. So if we were to look in, let's see here, we have We have this desert pack, which has all of the base backgrounds for desert kind of ground. It has all of these rock formations as well as some other elements there. The second desert one is more about ruins and constructed kind of material. But then we also have the Western map pack, and there's two of these. So again, the first one is kind of more. Here we have like dynamite, and we actually did a few mines and things, I think. Look here. Yeah, so we created this kind of like mine that we did a while back as a little test here. Oh, very cool. Oh yeah, we could definitely do that. In addition to this, in these art packets, as you can see, we have lots of different rocks and whatnot. You have all of the things that you might want to, from hats to different kind of outdoor constructions. We have all of the brushes that you might want to use. Types of natural flooring in the first one, and in the second Western pack, it's more about the interior location. Right? So we have like balconies for brushes, porches, so on. And so we can go into our decorations here, and here we have like cans of food, baskets, um, church bells, cash registers, milk cans. We have safes that you guys could crack and other elements there. And then this is where we have all of our different, our roof elements for fills and whatnot, as well as different amounts of flooring and whatnot. Ooh, a steamboat saloon, sure, that could be fun. We could definitely do something that is bizarre or oh well, we have lots of stuff in the works for some upcoming packs. Yeah, and also if you guys have anything that you would like to see us create, please let me know. I'm always open to suggestions and would love to get input on what you guys would like to see in the art pack section of our. Well, why don't we combine some of these ideas here, huh? We could do we could definitely do like a steamboat and maybe put some of this other stuff in there as well. Yeah, the modern and sci-fi stuff is harder to come by, isn't it? Because unfortunately, it's a smaller genre of the RPG market. Too bad. Yes, we do have plans for that. So the question is, any plans to make racial cultural pacts like Dwarven, Elven, Drow? There is. Yep. Yes. Yeah, we could totally do that. Well, we've done lots of underwater stuff in the past here. I can actually kind of pull some stuff up, kind of look at it. I should probably get a better naming convention stuff, but see here. Oh yes, we made this Wizard's Tower a while back. Let's see if we have some underwater. I can just kind of walk through some of the stuff. Oh yes, we go to some of our. Have a look here. They have a lot of cliff stuff. Oh yeah, we made this Spelljammer ship a little while back with the Fantastic Ship package. And here we did some cool water effects as well. This actually had some cool lighting, if I yeah. We do a lot with water. Here's a jungle bridge that we made a little while ago. I think this one has quite a lot of elements that you might want to have. Oh, so here we have a lot of kind of, and we have interior thing that we did over here, cave entrance. Nice little active element here. Excuse me, sneeze there. Hopefully I muted in time. And so this is a combination of several of the different art packs that we kind of put together and made this. But by allowing us to use some of the fading techniques that we do, you can put some underneath as well. I think that we actually do have some. Oh yeah, playing live is always fun. The after was really great. Oh yes, and we did this planet and space station too. Oh, created kind of elements here. This uses the couple of the space packs that we had created, or that I did. You could build all of this stuff with the art packs, but all of this stuff does. I think that there was a little bit of a hiccup there a while back, but I'll check into it this week and make sure that all of these maps do go up because they are all on the Forge for free. You can download them. You just have to either have the art subscription or own the art packages for them to kind of function properly. So the way that it works is it just uses all of the metadata and oh yes. And what would you like to know how to do? How to build something or how to if you go to the Forge, as long as you have the art subscription, you can download any of those map packs that I have on there for They are just pre-built maps that we do here. Oh yeah, sure. We can go into we're gonna start building a map here in just a moment. And so we're gonna do a couple of the aspects that everyone's kind of thrown out here. We're gonna build a ship. We'll do some underwater areas, and we can do like some nice glowy kind of stuff and set up the lighting and all. When we build these maps, it might take us a couple of different. It might be continued to next time, but we're gonna jump right into it. So we have a lot of different ones that we've kind of gone. Here's a tavern we made a little guy. Looks like that's something kind of a little wonky right there. I'll have to check that. That actually. Hmm, sure. Actually, on that little section there. But yeah, we made a little portal down here. You can see we kind of made it like glowing. We just set up all the lights and not all these. Uh, we don't have. I don't know if I've created a haunted house or not. Yes, you can import all of your own images that you want to, and you can um, in your assets area over here. All you have to do is go down to this folder button, click that, and it's going to do a little pop-up. Then you can just drag and drop your stuff. And then once that does, you just hit this little refresher, and then your images will be right either in your campaign or your deck. Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff too inside of Fantasy Grounds to further adjust the. So when we get started, we'll start creating. Probably what we'll do is we'll create the environment this time, and then we'll go and next time we'll build the ship. No, I don't think so. All right, so let's. So what I'm going to do to get started here is I'm just going to right click inside my images area. So if you don't know how to get there, you just go over to your right side menu over here, and click on your images. Get this pop up. This is my assets, which is the library right over here. And I'm just going to right click in here, and I'm going to create a new image record. I'm going to drag this out. Now I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to cut down. Drag this over. So this. And I'm going to go into my grid over here, and I'm going to set it to 100 by 100, which is immediately going to turn this on. Then I'm going to select my int icon over here, and I'm going to lower down its opacity. I want it to be there, but I don't want it to be super intrusive, so that way I can kind of build up from there. Oh, let's see here. Is there a convenient way to invert the color space? Lots of space maps, bundle the traveler back lines, white background. Oh, well, I don't know if you can invert it or not. Might be. It's a good question. Let's see if we can figure out a way to do that really quickly with some effects layers. So I wonder if I have. Well, this is an image that's kind of. If we can invert. Maybe this. That. I'm just going to grab this. Before we get started, I'll just going to grab and drag and drop this inside of here. And then we can go to an effects layer. I can make this new effects layer. So let's see if we can invert this, change it around. Not exactly sure if we're able to. Might. So we'll create a new effects layer. Copy it. We what? Might be able to do something. Yeah, you can do night vision goggles. And you can get rid of a lot of the extra. But no, I don't think that there's any way to actually put inside of here, unfortunately. Oh, is it? In and out? Yeah, let me adjust that real quick. All right, hopefully that will fix it there. All right, so we're going to delete this stuff here. Let's delete all of this. And we're going to start to build our map here. So I'm going to go all the way up here into my root. Well, hopefully it'll stop at this point. Yeah, of course. Let me okay. Well, let me know if it continues to do it. I'll try to keep an eye on it. Hopefully. All right. So let's go in here. We're going to start to build an environment here. So what do you guys think it should be? We're going to do like some glowing mushrooms and whatnot. Some different little areas. We're going to do some water, so we can do some underwater areas. Do you think that we should have rocky ground, primarily rocky, or do you think we should have primarily like dirt, grass? What do you guys think? Oh, good. Oh, awesome. So the first thing that we're going to do is determine what we're going to do. Yeah, we can do weird grass for the majority of our ground elements. So we can use this underwater as well, especially if we're going to do an underwater area. We want to have like lots of plants and stuff down there. Sure, we can do mud. Yeah, we could do a coral reef beach for sure. So that we're going to do like sand at that point and whatnot. So what we could do is we could go into our coastal map pack, and then we have our backgrounds here, which is just water. Brushes are going to be like these kind of elements, but we're going to be using this then in that for our sand. But I do believe that we do have lots of sand, and we can just type in sand fill, for example. Let's just type in sand. And see what we have here. So we have sand, and this is in our coastlines. This is in, here we have some nice sand elements here. That's going to be in our desert map pack. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to my painting area here. I'm just going to create a new painting and layer. And I'm going to turn off my stroke. I'm going to switch over to my fill. And then I'm going to grab my rectangle here. And I'm going to hold down Control so I snap to the grid. And I can just pull out a section here. And this is going to be some nice sand elements. Now I don't want this to be straight across like this. I'm going to add a little bit more flair to this. I'm going to go over to our edit fill area over here. As you can see, we can move this around after the fact. We can change its rotation and its size. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger. Oh, we're making a map inside of Fantasy Grounds using our official art packages. So I'm just demonstrating the tool usage and how to kind of think about your map creation inside of the system that we have here. So before we go too much further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another painting layer. And what I'm going to do down here is I'm just going to call this one ground. And this top one I'm going to call water. And now I'm going to go into the coastal map pack here. I'll go into our backgrounds, and here we have this nice water element, because here we have some splashes, some brushes that we might need, and a lot of the decorations that kind of go along with things that are on the edge here, which are these nice like watery kind of rocks and whatnot. So I'm going to go into here, and again I'm going to go right back to my rectangle. I'm going to replace this. And I think what I'm actually going to do is use my line tool here. Well, let's actually use this, because then we can just erase out some sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little bit of an area here, and we'll do another little island kind of coming out here. But again, I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to snap to the grid here. We're just going to drag this out. Now from here, what I can actually do is I can switch over now, and we can go to the subtract area here, right? So we have different overlap functions. This is a normal, which is whenever you want to create a new element all by itself. We can add to this, and we can subtract from it as well. We can also do intersect, but that doesn't, I don't end up ever using that very often. We can do this a bunch of different ways. We can use the line tool now, and what I can actually do is kind of draw out a section over here. And you can see that's going to remove that from that fill area. The same way as I can kind of come along here, and we can make a more interesting kind of coastline, something like this. Now you might think like, oh, well, this is rather rigid, and there's a couple of different ways that we can kind of handle that. But we can go back into our fill area over here, and as you can see over here, we have a couple of different options here. So we can still, again, move this, and I'm actually going to rotate this to kind of match this and increase the size of my waves there. But what I can also do is hold down F and use my mouse wheel to fade out the edges. Now you can see it's going to get a little bit wonky along some of these areas here, but what I can actually do is to come into here, and you can see we have a lot of different occluders here. I'm just going to double click them all, and I'm going to come over to simplify, and that's going to simplify that quite a lot. And now I can adjust these back to wherever I want them to be. And maybe move this around a little bit. And we can pull this right out and kind of move this here and this one over here. And so now we have a nice kind of fade there. The other thing that we can do is also in this fill edit area, we have control over the color. So if I hold down R, for example, I can interact with the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, or the alpha. So I can just lower down the alpha of this if I want to. Especially if we want to see what's kind of underneath there. I think what I'm actually going to do though is let's drag this down a little bit as well. And we'll kind of round out some of these areas. We don't want it to be too angular. And this is going to give us a lot of leeway in the way that we interact with this system. And we could also leave it the way that it was, and we could go into our brushes, and we have brushes that are kind of set up to go along the coastlines and whatnot. But I'm just going to give you some different ways that you kind of approach all of these different scenarios. We could do this exactly the opposite, right? We could do the water as a background kind of fill area, and then do the same thing with the ground and fade it out on top. There's so many different ways, and one of the great things about the system that we have inside of Fantasy Grounds is that you can approach it many different ways and whatever is more comfortable for you. The next thing that we can do is I'm going to go back down to my ground layer, and we can go back into our fills once again here. And we can drag out some other areas here, right? We don't want to have sand in all of the different spots. But we might want to do like some dirt that kind of comes down and create this like layered kind of effect where we're going to move up from the sandy coastline and into dirt and grass and all of those kinds of things. We can also come in here after the fact and we can interact with these systems again and again. So nothing that you do needs to be set in stone. And we can create as many layers as we want to. So we can come in here and let's say, for example, I want to darken this up, or I even want to make it like crazy colors. We can certainly do all of that stuff. I can also interact with the system on a layer basis, so I can change all of the colors in that particular layer. So if I want something to be consistently um, across all of the different elements, we can certainly do that as well. We might even want to put in some stones and whatnot, so we're going to add in a lot of different elements though. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to keep these two layers in their entirety. So I'm not going to add in any additional layers for my ground. I'm just going to build right on top of it. So let's go in here and I'm going to just type in, well, I can actually just use, there's some, I can just type in, whoop, not brown, ground. And there's lots of different ground elements, but I should probably add in fill on top of that just to narrow my search here a little bit. Well, that didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to. So let's do ground fill. And here we have a whole bunch here. But I think I'm actually going to go into the 2019 art package. And I'm going to go into one of these tiles. And I'm going to use like this darker ground here. So again, we go into our painting area over here. I'm going to go into the rectangle. And I'm just going to switch that out. And I'm going to drag out, again, I'm going to hold down, well, we don't want to be subtracting. We want to make sure we go back to normal because we're going to be creating a new element over here. And I'm going to drag out a section, something like this. And then again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my line tool. And I could either, let's add to this now. So I could come in here and add to this. Again, I'm going to hold down, well, let's not hold down control. Let's just go, I can add another element to this. Oh, that's interesting. It's moved it behind. Well, let's just create a new layer then. So we don't have to have any, I'll have to put in a bug report for that. So let's go here and we're going to add to this now. And I'm going to, again, I'm going to just use my line tool here and we're going to add to that. And we can add in any amount of additional kind of elements that we want to. We can switch to subtract and we can subtract stuff. And again, I'm going to click on these and I'm going to simplify them. We don't need all of those lines there. Line that up a little bit. And now we have this kind of this break between, we have this nice sandy areas, and that kind of moves up into these dirt areas. One of the things that I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to come into here and I'm going to lower down the colors here a little bit. Well, actually, let's leave it the way it is. Let's maintain it, but we can also add in a little bit of a fade. And we can adjust some of these areas in here as well. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to switch over. Let's go to our, we're going to do some little changes here. Let's go into our desert art package. There's some nice kind of wild looking grass there. And if we go into our decorations and we have these nice little grass elements like this. And this time I'm going to go to my stamp tool and I'm going to grab one of these. Let's go with something like this, a little bit larger one. And again, we can use R, G, and B in the mouse wheel to change the color. So I'm going to get rid of some of that red. Let's make it a little bit darker, maybe something like this. I think what we'll do is in these as well, before we get going too much further, I'm going to just lower down the opacity of these a little bit. So it's a little bit more of a natural kind of transition there. And I'm just going to start stamping some of these around. What I'm going to do is use my use A and my mouse wheel as well, and that's going to lower down that opacity. I can also use Control to change the size of the image as I'm stamping. And I can use Shift to rotate it. So you can see we get a lot of texture from that. And if I lower down that opacity, you can see it kind of feels as though that there's a little bit of a fade going on there as it kind of just comes out. Maybe it's been trampled down or any number of things. So let's increase it over here, make it a little bit smaller, and just kind of stamp in some of these areas. Maybe it kind of spills out into the sand even. Lots of cool interactions here already. So again, we can come back in here. I'm going to lower this opacity down a little bit more. I want it to be a little bit more subtle. Yeah, something like this. Again, we can always come back in after the fact, right? I can move these individual pieces around. I can change the shape. And that's one of the really massive advantages I think that we have inside of Fantasy Grounds. All right, so we have a pretty basic kind of understanding of where all of this different stuff is, right? Like how it's all laid out and where all of the different elements are kind of going to be. What I'm actually going to do is we're gonna make this this water a little bit more transparent. So again, I'm just going to go over into here, hold down A, and lower that down. So we're going to be able to see some of that stuff. And what we'll do is on this layer, because we're doing this on an image transparency rather than the entire layer itself, we can stamp in some areas so we can create some like darker elements and whatnot. But this is just going to be our base for what we're going to start with here. And this way we can start to build our coral reef and do all the different elements underneath, even some of this watery stuff we can do. So anything that we do in this particular layer, right? So I can stamp in some of this grass underneath the water here, and you can see it's going to immediately kind of look as though it is these patches of similar type of plant growth underneath these areas. So the next thing we're going to start to do here to kind of build this up is we're going to start to use some stones to add in some additional kind of elements. You always want to have just in the pleasing characteristics of the creation process, you want to have some nice transitions of different materials, things that are going to be able to cast shadows. And once we start to build up some of the water, we're going to do some waves and whatnot, different opacities of that the white foaminess that the water gets around images and whatnot. It's going to start to bring a cohesion of everything kind of together. So we'll go back into our coastline here, go into our decorations, and I'm just going to type in rock down here, and that's going to give me a whole bunch of different rocks. And these ones are kind of set up so that they feel like that they're ocean weathered, right? They're rounded and they're a little bit darker. And so that's going to be really good for us to kind of work with here. Now everything that I do, I'm gonna create one more painting layer, and we're going to have that above the water. And that's where we're going to be putting anything that's going to be coming out of the water here. And we can just grab these and kind of build our own elements here. As you can see, that it's going to feel as though it's kind of coming up a little bit. And we can put some that are out here maybe a little bit. And then we're going to want to do some smaller ones. Let's grab something like this. And we're going to use some of this stuff, right? We're going to build some of this stuff underneath the water as well. Now you could get as advanced if you want as you want to with this, with doing several layers of water at different opacities, so that it kind of builds that feeling of depth. And so for an example of that is, right, if we duplicate that layer, right, it's going to duplicate another one. And now we're going to drop this down in underneath here. But we could actually just let's instead of doing it on that, let's go to our painting area here, and we can just grab a bunch of this stuff at once, move it in. And this will make us want to readjust, and we can kind of build these things around, as you can see here. And we'll go into here, and I'm going to actually fade this out a bit more. And we'll have to readjust some of this stuff, but I'm also going to lower down its opacity more, as well as this one. And you can get a really nice kind of effect here where we're starting to see like the depth of the water here, but you can still get these shadows of things underneath. But the cool thing about doing it this way is that you can take these kind of rock elements, right? So let's go in here and I'll move this one out here, and then we can create a new painting layer and put that in between. And so we can go back to our stamp over here, and I'm just going to change this a little bit. And what this will do is, as you can see here, this will be like deep rocks, and then as they're coming back up out of these particular areas here. And you can see like this will actually be that feeling as though the shallowness of the water and how it fades into down into the depths here. Yep, this is just in Fantasy Grounds. Yep. We're using official art packs and creating right inside of Fantasy Grounds. And again, we can kind of build this stuff up. Let me grab another one of these rocks, and you can see that we can create some really cool kind of effects this way. And let's change this shape a little bit smaller down here, and we'll grab some of these larger ones. Yep, there's a very, very robust image creation system right inside of Fantasy Grounds. So now that we have this kind of neat interaction between our water and some of the surrounding areas, you know it still looks very flat and whatnot, we can start to put in some of these additional elements here. So let's go all the way up to our, I guess I didn't want to go all the way there, but let's go to our effects. Yeah, we can very easily do the animation for the water. And we can do that immediately if you want. I can go, all you have to do, and here's one of the great things about using these kind of painted out fills, is that we can actually go into, let's say here, our effects channel here, and we can create a mask using the painting mask, right? So what we have selected here, we can actually create a new effects layer, and that mask is going to be right there. So we can go to water, and you can see it's right where we expect it to be. And then we can drop this down. We don't need to have it there, but we can then come into here and hide area and remove these little sections here, something like this. So very, very easy to do. Then all we can do is, I'll bring the intensity down a little bit, but I think I'll increase the droplet here a little bit. And we can also blur out the edges slightly, so you get this nice kind of rippling, as though that the water is kind of interacting with the ground around it. And what I'll do is I'm going to actually go back into my painting area here in my stamp, and I'm going to grab this little splashing area. I'm going to lower down this opacity quite a lot because I'm going to build up a few little layers. I'm going to do this right on the water layer itself. And I'm just going to kind of stamp this around. Now you can see that this is going to not quite interact with that area over here the way we want to. So we're going to have to do some on this as well. Or, hold on. I think I put these here and I didn't want to. So let's just delete some of these. Go back over here, and we're going to go down to, I think that this is, yeah, on this water layer. And we're going to do some in here as well. And that's going to make it feel as though that, as we were doing before, we're going to go back and forth between these two water layers. Well, we don't want a new painting layer. We want to be on this, oh, not the effects layer, but this one. And we can even lower down that opacity a little bit more. And we can do some larger kind of things out and around. I think we'll move these though, maybe out like over here. And I think what I'll do is make some smaller ones. We'll do like some trails coming out. We might even want to do some of this stuff above that water element as well. And what I'll do is I'm going to actually make this a little bit oblong here. Maybe even a little bit, yeah, I guess that's probably pretty good. And I'm going to do some along the edge here. Get that feeling that there are, just kind of stamp this here and there. And we can get very in-depth and kind of, this is where Fantasy Grounds can really become almost like a painting program. You can really have some fun. I think we'll break this up here a little bit. I'm going to move some of this stuff in. We'll move some of this stuff out. Do this a little bit more of a better fade here. Yeah, very cool. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come back into my stamp here, and my tint, I'm going to actually grab this, and we're going to make some nice darker ones as well here. Hit OK. And then I'm going to grab, I'm going to lower down my opacity of this. We might even make this a little bit darker, in fact. So let's move this down, something like this, yeah. And we can do the same kind of thing in the other direction, like these deeper areas. We can add a little bit more to it. And we can also do this, if you so wish. We can get these out of here with another effects layer. So one of the things that I like to use a lot, we don't want to move that there. No, this one goes up top. Okay. One of the other things that we can do is use another effects layer and go into here, and we can do adjust colors, and we can lower down the brightness here, create a mask, and we can kind of paint out some darker areas here. And then we can blur that as well. And we probably make that less abrupt. And we can also use this to create some shadows with, but we'll do this in several different kind of layers here. And as you can see, we are starting to develop a very, we can put this down in underneath our water effects layer too. And I'll do some additional kind of back and forth here a little bit. Yeah, very cool. Now what I'm also going to do is we can use this exact same layer here, and we can add in like a little bit of like darkness for our, now well, we should probably not do it on that layer. Let's do another one. We can create a little bit of a feeling that this is like wet around here, and we can do that with another effects layer. And we'll drop this down to like here, and again we're going to make another adjust colors, and we'll darken that up some. It's maybe a little bit too much, and then we'll enable a mask, and then we'll kind of draw in and we could even add, we could probably, what we'd want to do is maybe put this at 45. Let's see, what, yeah, we probably want to do something like, and we could even come in and do some in the sand here. Take away from some of the peaks. And as we progress and as we start to build the stuff up, you can see we might lose some of this identity for our water. So we can always come back into our water layer and go into our painting tab, and we can lower down the opacity of that again a little bit. And you can see we start to create a very natural feeling here. And we can add in a little bit around these rocks. Yeah, very cool. All right, so let's start to build up some of these other kind of elements here. And what I'm actually going to do is we've got a couple of effects layers going here. So we have this top kind of painting area here. So let's call this one rocks. Before we get too far into this, let's make some adjustments here. And this is all of our grass and ground. And we'll leave that one as is for right now. I don't know what we're going to name it yet. So I think what we'll do at this point is we'll create one more painting layer. This is going to be shadows. And we're going to go in. I'm going to grab, go back into our stamp area over here. And I'm just going to grab this image, which is just like this soft kind of round. I'm going to move it all the way to black, and then I'm just going to give it a little bit of blue and lower down its opacity quite a lot here. And I'm just going to stamp in some shadows here. Now we can do this with effects layers as well. And I'm also going to use some like out here, just some added kind of feeling of depth that we have here. And let's make this rather oblong here. I think some of these ones will move here. We don't really need this one, I don't think. Yep, that should be good. And we can go back into our stamp over here now. And I'll do a little bit in these little corners and whatnot. Right along here. And you can see that's going to really start to bring that out, right? Like really feel as though that there's some depth there. I'll also do some larger ones like here, just to make it feel as though that these have shape. So it kind of like looks as though it's kind of going down into the water. We get a little bit of roundedness there. And on this side. Awesome. So why don't we start to add in some higher up vegetation and whatnot. We can do some trees along here. And so we could type in palm, for example. I wonder if it's just in tree. Let's go to our jungle. I think it's the next ones. Yeah. We have these ferns. We have a whole bunch of these, but I think we have some nice, yeah, they're just under trees. But we can use this to also kind of create some nice little environments. Let's grab, I think we'll do some of this stuff as well. Start to build up some of these areas over here. And I'm just going to do a little bit of color variations. And we can even lower down the opacity to make it feel as though that um, it blends into some of this grass here. And this will be like the fallen elements we're going to build on top of this. So what we're actually doing is creating layers of texture here for a much more believable kind of environment. We can even do some out here. We might even want to increase our, do some smaller ones, something like this. And if I want to do some, because we're doing it in a layered system here, right, I can come down to this area and we could do some underneath this as well. And again, lowering down the opacity just makes it kind of feel as though that it's more embedded into the whatever is underneath it. And now we can grab some of these trees, and again, we're going to go back up here onto this like rock area here. And we can start to create whatever we might have on this area over here. I think in the this one as well, there's some. Yeah. And what we can do is we can always come back in, right? And we can move some of these around, maybe change how these all interact together. Go back into our shadows. And again, I can grab this guy, pull it right over. Another thing that you can do is use this little eyedropper, and that will grab whatever image it is, and it will set it to whatever that actually happens to be, which can be super useful. And so we can add in some shadows from these guys. And these are just very subtle ones. We might want to go in later and add in more precise shadows, but this will just give us a good frame of reference. And we can even go in underneath where all of these are, maybe onto this layer. And I'm going to make this round again. And we can kind of give a little bit of shadow underneath these things to help separate them a little bit. And I'll also do some here. And then we can, again, exaggerate this. Let's make this long and narrow. And what I'll do is I'll just paint this out a little bit. So it's like there's a little bit of a shadow coming off of there. As you can see, this is really starting to take shape as we progress further and further down the creation process. It starts to have a life of its own almost. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down into this painting area. And again, I'm going to lower down the opacity of this just a bit, right? I want it to be more subtle. Yeah, I like that. And I really like the contrast between this nice light sand and these harsh, darker rocks. We can also come in here and we can start to do some stuff underneath the water here. Let's go to our underwater art package. We have about a half an hour left for today. So if you guys have any questions or if there's anything else that you'd like further explanation on, please let me know. So we have underground, underwater. So in here we have tons of really cool coral elements and lots of fun stuff that we can kind of add in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of these plants. And again, I'm going to go back into my stamp over here and we'll grab something like this. And I'm going to start to add in some of this stuff. And we'll be adding in more um, easily identifiable wave formations as well. Let's grab some of this coral. And you can see that most of this stuff is kind of set up in angular motions, right? I'll show you how to do this. So what you can do is, you see you have a rock like this. And we're going to start stamping some along here. We'll do some smaller ones and some larger ones. And then we're going to go one that's a little bit more in this direction. And then we can grab one that is straight top down. And it will make it feel as though, as you can see here, it's kind of going up and over the rock. It's just another way to create that feeling that these actually have shape. And we can start to play with some of these other elements here. Almost looks like a bouquet of flowers, doesn't it? And we might even want to put some in here. Oh yeah, for sure. And we can even add in some of this stuff. Let's go to this area here. And then we can go and have some right on top. Things that are just going to make the whole environment a little bit more interesting, as you can see. And we could, for certain, put a chest down there. So why don't we actually do that? Let's just look up a chest here. We'll grab this one, I think. Actually, let's grab this one. And then we can actually build like some, that's a kind of a big chest, huh? Maybe we should make it a little bit smaller. And you can build up some stuff around it, really build it into the environment. Yeah, I'm sure they would. So what we can actually do, let's say instead of, um, we'll make some of this coral stuff down here glowy. And so why don't we work on that? And that will be it for today. And then we'll finish this up next time. So in order for that to kind of function here, we're going to create our whole lighting system. So why don't we're going to look at it from the player's perspective. And we're going to turn our lighting on. And so for right now, let's go over here and I'm going to go into my ambient lighting and we're just going to put on sunlight. Oh, it looks as though that kind of changes. Oh, that's very interesting. The opacity changes quite a lot there. Nope, there's no way currently to export or to condense down the images. So basically what it is a conglomerate of images. So let's make some adjustments here. Let's go into our water here. We can go back into our painting area. And we'll just increase our opacity here back to where we want it to be. Oh, thanks, Daniel. And so with our lighting system, you can see our shadows too are going to be need to be a little bit stronger. Now let's go into our lighting system over here. Here we have it set up for our ambient light is set up for sunlight. And we have like dawn, moonlight. Looks like at moonlight our adjust colors are a little bit too strong, so I'd probably repaint those or adjust them for that as well. So what we can do, especially if we want to make this feel like it's glowing down here, I'm going to actually turn off the ambient light and we're going to add a light. So I'm just going to drop one right here. And I'm going to use this for my main light source here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my bright up here quite a bit. Let's increase the size of this. Let's do something like 20. And I'm going to change this to like 50 and this to 100. We can even change this. Let's do something like 30 or maybe even 40. And then we can change this to like 30. Right, okay. And we'll put this over here. And we're going to add in another light source. Again, we'll change this to 50 and this to 100. And we'll drop this guy down in here. All right, now let's increase these sizes. So this dim is going to be like 15 with a brightness of maybe like 10. And we might even want to do another fall off like this. So you see that these light sources are going to interact with each other. So you're going to want to get these positions correctly. And so by building up these areas, you can create your own lighting system. And what we can actually do is, let's go over here, and maybe we're going to get something like this, or maybe we'll make it a little bit greener, something like this. And we can drop this right down here. And what I would actually do is, let's maybe make the brightness 0, and the dim like 2. We might want to make it 1, depending on how we want it to do, or maybe like 0.5. Yeah, I understand. I understand. The one of the reasons why we haven't necessarily gone that route yet is we have to protect a lot of copyrighted material, and so it's a little bit of a tricky scenario in there, but it's possible. It's possible in the future we'll get such a treat. I think we'll increase this one a little bit. We can move this one over, and let's go to that one. We'll make this one like 50. Yeah, something like this. And then what we can do is we can come back in here, and this one is like 0.5 and 2. And I'm just gonna change this parameter in here. And we can adjust these later, but you could create these nice little glowing elements down here. And we might even make some of them smaller. Like this. And we're gonna put these on these things. We'd have to put something over here by our chest so you could just barely see it. And then when we switch back over, you can see you can create these nice little glowing elements. And what we can actually do, let's say we want to change these colors so that they stand out a little bit more, because it kind of fits in there a little bit, is we can actually grab all of these, and because these are all the same color, we can interact with them all at the same time. We can kind of just drag this around until we find something that is going to work for us. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just duplicating these shadows just to bring them back to kind of where I want them. And then I'll have to redo shadows over here because of the lighting system. But here you can kind of see how the whole system kind of interacts together. And we might even want to, let's go back into our lights, bring, maybe I'll bring this one over here and we'll just increase the size of it here. And now the other thing that we can do, now that we have our lighting system kind of set up in this way, is we can actually go into, and you can see if we turn off our lights, everything is much too dark. So our lighting system is kind of interacting with the opacity a little bit strangely. But you can make the adjustments there. But I'll make a report about that so that we can probably get that a little bit tweaked. But what we can do is we can also interact with this a little bit differently as well. We can create another effects layer, and we can actually, again, we can go into our adjust colors, and we'll enable a mask here. And I'm just going to do one of these sections. Let's do like right here, and I'm just going to turn that on, and then we can, and maybe we'll make that glowing something like this. We can make it a bit smaller here, so let's and we might want to bring that down a little. So using all of the different systems in tandem, you can drastically kind of change the way that everything interacts. And this is exactly how our players would see it. Great. Well, we're kind of winding down here. Do you guys have any other questions, or is there anything else that I can kind of help you with? We'll continue this next time. We're going to actually do, I might expand this out a little bit. We're going to do like a nice big ship and add in some other kind of strange elements and whatnot. But here's a kind of basic kind of understanding of how we interact with the Fantasy Ground system, how it many of the tools that we use today. You can see how that kind of functions from the lighting system. We didn't do any line of sight stuff, but we can certainly get into that next time as well. Oh, thanks so much, Drake. Me too. Me too. And I guess we'll call this, whoop, let's make sure that we have our cap lock off. Riverboat Reef. Oh, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, so I will be back this next Saturday from 3 p.m. I usually stream from 3 p.m. to 6, but getting back into the swing of things, I'll probably just go to 5 for a couple of times until we get back on track. I know that 2 hours is a little bit of a rush to get anything really accomplished because stopping and explaining and whatnot. But oh, thanks, Drake. Oh, thanks, Landrast. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Well, we're going to call it here then. If there's no other questions, I'll be back here again, as I said, on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll continue down this road. We're gonna make a whole ship to this and really expand on everything. Uh, Riverboat Reef, we're calling it. So we've created our basic landscape, and then next week we're gonna build a riverboat, like a casino riverboat. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you all next time. Have a great week, everybody.